Shame is actually not a bad emotion. Uh, and some people have too little of it, and other people have too much of it.
Yeah.
And of course, many traumatized people feel like they're inadequate, they are not good enough, are afraid for people to look at them. But that's really very much connected with attachment trauma, which is really quite different from, if you know my work, uh, trauma is very different at various different stages of development. So getting molested by your own parents when you're 3 is a completely different neurobiological and mental event than getting attacked in the street when you're 40 years old. So what is oftentimes missing is the attachment system.
Mm.
And the attachment system is the core um, support that allows us to feel safe and to feel connected and feel worthwhile. And so there's a fair amount of, to my mind, uh, sloppy thinking about what is trauma and what's disrupted attachment. And it's really disrupted attachment of having your parents slap you around and putting you down and humiliating you that leads to a very deep sense of I'm inadequate, I'm not good enough. The reason that my parents don't love me is because I'm not good enough. If I were good enough, my parents would love me. And but that's, to my mind, most of all a function of the attachment system.
Mm.
uh, And indeed also, uh, you know, when you chronically are out of touch with people and you blow up at people and you become really angry uh, and have temper tantrums and disrupt the meetings, then you may also have a very deep sense of there is something terribly wrong with me. And but once you get better, in our psychedelic therapies, for example, there's a very profound increase in self-acceptance
Mm.
and no longer feeling like damaged goods. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of why the self-acceptance and the reduction of shame emerges from that?
Yeah, because uh, in these psychedelic states, which we can barely replicate in ordinary psychotherapy, people are able to go to very deep places where they get to observe what happened to them.
Mm.
And rather than being blended with that kid back then or that person back then, you are more aware of yourself in the present and you can see and experience what that person who you once were, but still feel like you are it, what they went through. And in those states, you can have a deep sense of self-compassion for what that kid back then had to go through.
Mm.
And then you say, I'll take care of that kid. That
Mm.
kid was so abandoned. That kid was so lonely and was nobody there for them. But I will be there for that person who is me. Yeah, like
Yeah.
so that's the core therapeutic transformation that occurs in good therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. And how that would, in the deep witnessing and validation, reduce that the shame that's
Internal validation.
internal validation. Yeah.
So yes, external validation is useful, but it's not curative.
Mm.
Huh? It's the internal validation. This is what I went through, and I did the best I could. And the best at that stage of my life wasn't good enough, but that's all I could do back then.
Mm.
Hmm?
Yeah.
But it's about your relationship to you. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Deeply powerful. And I can appreciate, I want to go back to something you said. It's like you said you can barely get to it in psychotherapy or in
Yeah,
perhaps,
it's very hard to get there. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It,
Yeah.
what would make it possible to get there in
Well,
non-psych?
psychedelics, hypnosis,
Yes, well, not, I mean, depending on this.
hypnosis. Uh, you need to be in an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah.
The brain that you currently have on a day-to-day basis is usually not capable of really not going there and really deeply feeling what it was that you experienced.